Mike, check 1 2 1 2. Fancy guest. He's sitting over here. We're just gonna pan to him real quick. Mike, check, sir.
Mike, check. Does this thing work?
Does this thing on?
Does this work?
Do you look like your wife did? Mike, are you there?
Yeah, that made me laugh way too hard when that. Mike, you there?
Check 1 2. Michael, you in? Mike, you there?
Welcome to another episode of the Tiffany Show, your TV, Peterborough, Lindsay. If you don't subscribe, I highly recommend that you do. Today's episode is going to be just a little bit sweet. Mr. Matt Couture, Mr. Couture Candy himself. Come on in. Slide on down. You're the next contestant on the Tiffany Show.
Are we both in here?
We are. Yeah, you snug? You comfy?
Yeah, I'm
Got your
comfy.
legs crossed? Yeah, a little cheers before we
Ready
start.
to go. Cheers.
Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
Last time we saw you was our Father's Day episode.
Yeah.
And as we were talking during Father's Day, I was like, oh, Matt's got a story to tell.
I think I do. I think I have an interesting story to tell that not everybody, life experiences that not everybody goes through.
And I think it's important for us to hear those stories, to always remember that we are not alone in any of the journeys that we are walking through in life.
For sure.
So Matt Couture, why don't you tell the wonderful people a little bit about yourself, maybe your hometown, dislikes, special talents, a secret no one knows about you?
I own a business with my wife called Couture Candy. And I used to be a paramedic for 15 years, and I left that in 2020. After a PTSD diagnosis. Grew up here, well, I was born in Oshawa, grew up mostly in Peterborough though, went to St. Paul's, and then St. Pete's, and college here. I've been here since I was like 10.
Hometown.
Yeah, hometown, yeah. As close to hometown as it gets.
So you said you went to St. Pete's. Who
I
else?
did.
There's other local celebrities went to St. Pete's. Did Pete Dalladay go there?
He must have.
Yeah?
I think he was older than me.
Oh, was he? Sorry, Pete. Shots fired. We're going to Pete later on this year. He's going to throw one at you.
I think he might have been like Mark, like Lisa's brother Mark Million.
Oh,
I
yes,
think he was maybe closer to that.
The Mark Million's
like,
doing the Pete store up there. Yeah, Men's Center now, right?
Yeah.
Sweet. Nobody better to do that than Mark.
He's doing a great job.
Oh, yeah. I love that guy.
Yeah.
We should have him on an episode, too.
Yeah.
We're just coming up with all the ideas today. So a business owner, a retired paramedic.
Or we can call it retired.
Yeah, retired from the industry.
I don't do it anymore. Yeah.
No? A current student.
Yeah.
Beautiful human being. You truly are. What has been the big challenge and reward for transitioning from emergency services to business owner to student?
The biggest challenge, I would say, is going from working for somebody and having a checkout time where, I was able to leave and say, okay, see you tomorrow or see you next week, or I'm going on vacation for 3 weeks or whatever, right?
Right.
And switching over to business where you just don't get to do that without really planning things out.
Yes.
So Lisa and I actually just came back from vacation, but in order to do that 4 days off, we had to do double shifts the week before to get everything ready for the stores before we left.
Right.
And then when we got back, we had to do double shifts to catch up for what we missed. So it's not as easy as just going on vacation and coming back and say, oh, well, I'm back. What do you need me to do?
You know what? It's not. And I encounter this a lot in conversations with entrepreneurs. And like you hear it a lot, like, oh, it must be nice to be a business owner. You can take time off whenever you want.
No.
So wildly untrue. Like
Very
if we
inaccurate.
Seriously bust that myth.
Yeah.
That is not true at all.
Everything's kind of grow and shrink, and there's these movements in the economy and your business and all these things. Like there was times definitely where we delegated a lot more, but as economy shrinks and we have to shrink the workforce a little bit, and that just means a lot more pressure and responsibility and just time goes towards Lisa and myself of doing all these things.
What are some of the most significant challenges that you have faced in life, and how have they shifted the way you move, the way you treat people, the way you see the world?
Going through PTSD in the first year was by far, like, I can't even explain it in words, by far the hardest thing I've ever done, and gotten through the other side. And it's also one of the things that I'm most proud of getting through, because it was so hard. But the first month is just kind of a blur, and then the year following, kind of 18 months after the initial kind of incident and the diagnosis and all those things, getting back to what I used to be pre-paramedic, or getting closer to it, getting some self-esteem back, because there's this thing about PTSD where you see what they portray in movies or what you might think it is, but really it's an anxiety response to a trauma, and it completely wipes out all your self-esteem, all your self-worth, all your ambition. It just wiped me to empty. I had
empty
nothing.
tank.
I was completely empty. I was a shell of a human walking around my house, and that was, digging back from that was by far the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Yeah.
Wow. And it's work, right? It's heavy work.
I mean, it's still
through.
work. It's I've kind of recovered,
right.
to a point where I'm being retrained to go back to work, and I'm working with Lisa a lot more, and I'm scaling back into the workforce that way, and I'm going to school for business. But it's still work. It's still, I still have to remind myself, month or weekly, if not daily, about certain tools and tricks that I've picked up along the way, where it's like, my brain is tricking me here. I need to fix that. But I can catch it now, where for the first year to 2 years, I couldn't catch it. Right. And then I would just spiral and spiral and spiral, where the smallest inconvenience or stressor in my life, my brain would trick me into thinking that I'm in some sort of physical, actual danger. Yep. So, it might be, I don't know, the transmission goes on your car. Not ideal. But most people go, okay, well, I got to figure out a way to pay for that and get it fixed. Where my brain would have gone automatically to, well, I can't afford it. That means I'm going to lose my job. That means Lisa's business is going to go under. That means we're going to lose our house. Lisa's parents live with us. That means they're going to lose their house. And all these things, it just spirals from like a slight inconvenience to the worst possible catastrophe, right?
Right.
And that's I guess the best way that I can explain what was going on. And
somebody will say something in my mind, and you're totally right. It's like our hardwire goes back to it's hardwired.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh no, wait, I've reprogrammed my brain. Hold on a second here.
But it takes that.
Yeah.
Hopefully most times it's just a little bit of mental effort, but it is an effort.
Yes.
And it's not like somebody's brain who can just let it go.
No.
Or it just passes over them or whatever. It takes that little bit of effort.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a little bit more, but usually I can catch it pretty quickly and go,
wait a second here. Yeah. Or you feel it in your body first. Like I had a hard time identifying emotions. And so later on in life, all of a sudden you realize, like, I don't know. I don't actually know how I feel.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden I'm looking at the emotions wheel, like trying to pick out how I feel in those moments. Right.
Yeah.
And I did find that I just deeply, I guess, empathize and agree with you. It's almost like once we start to kind of notice those behaviors, that's when we can go into our toolbox and kind of pull out the next thing that we've learned, that we know that can help support us through to the other side.
Yeah.
Now, can you maybe share some of the specific tools that worked for you? Because I know everybody's tools are different, right? Mm-hmm. And we all find different things, and some things work and some things don't. And some therapists are good matches and some aren't. And I just find the journey is so specific to each of us. Was there kind of a couple of things that you find that really help you kind of snap that awareness back?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it definitely took a long time and a lot of therapy. And it was really starting from the beginning. And I think what you were alluding to about not being able to feel your feelings, I think what you're saying is like when you were younger. And having that, growing up in the 80s where parents is just kind of like, yo, go do your thing, right? and I think I probably had anxiety for a long time. And then the PTSD like really made it blow up.
Yeah.
But going back and with my therapist, he would talk to me sometimes like I was a child and just what are you feeling? What do you,
Yeah.
how do you feel? But okay, but you feel nervous, but why? How? Where do you feel it? Do you feel it in your heart? Do you feel it in your stomach? Do you feel it? Do you feel a headache? Do you feel nauseous? Do you know, what do you feel? And then getting to actually know what anxiety feels like, which is so simple, it seems like, but nobody is just taught that.
No,
Right?
we're not.
No.
Like, I remember being well into my 20s because I didn't know, but I was feeling all of these, and I would have these anxiety attacks and these panic attacks, and it took me like a long time to find the tools and the direction that worked for me. And I was actually sitting on a city bus, and I remember it hitting me where I was like, what is wrong with me?
Yeah.
Do I need, like, how do I get help? Where do I turn to for help? Because we were never equipped with these tools or these conversations. Like,
and even still now, I mean, if you can say I was lucky enough, but in a sense, I was lucky enough to have been in the field that I was in, being a paramedic. There's a ton of resources out there available, right? So when I started having problems, and then I finally had the kind of worst situation and went off work permanently. And I talked to WSIB. When I talked to the guy there, and I was telling him what happened, and he just said, "Oh yeah, okay, obviously." Like, that was it. That was the end of the story. It was no long evaluation process. It's just assumed that because I was a paramedic and I've done all these things, and this is the final straw, that yes, you have PTSD. And it was just like, I spent my whole career being so afraid of it. And most paramedics, and I'm sure other emergency services, are so afraid of it, but people don't know that it's just there, and they just go, "Oh yeah, no, for sure," of course.
wow.
And but those services are available in my situation, but a lot of people who aren't in emergency service don't have that easy access to even if you don't have PTSD, but you have anxiety or depression or whatever, to go talk to a therapist for free.
Right. Yeah.
Like, most people don't have that luxury, that they just get unlimited amounts of time off work to heal themselves, right? I was very lucky that I was able to just go, okay, no, I can't do this anymore.
I have to say, I haven't had like a real honest conversation with a paramedic before. So I didn't know that empathy and those support systems were there for you.
It's relatively new. So I think probably about the last 10 years, so about 5 years before I went off work, was when the government passed, I think it's called presumptive PTSD legislation or something along those lines, where basically if you're in an emergency service and you are diagnosed with PTSD, it's just assumed that it's from work. So rather than, before that legislation, people would have to prove and say, I went to this call, this was my response, this is what happened. Now it's just like, no, you've worked for X amount of years in the field. You don't have to prove it that you have a diagnosis because of work.
Right. That's got to be nice to be believed.
Yeah.
Like, I have a girlfriend that's going through a situation right now where she needs to be off for a disability, and it's like, and she's in this battle with her insurance company trying to prove that this is happening. Like, it shouldn't be that complicated. Like, take care of humans, you know?
It's relatively simple.
Yeah.
Take care of humans.
Of course we need time off. Of course. We're human beings. And when we go, especially emergency services, and this has really opened up my eyes, I think, in the last year and a half, because I got to interview a police officer that was off because of PTSD.
Right.
And then I also got to interview the police chief.
Right.
So it was really kind of eye-opening that, oh my gosh, like, you're running to these emergency scenes. Once you clear the scene, you got another emergency to run to.
Yeah.
Like, who knows what these people are really encountering, like, minute by minute and situation by situation. And it definitely, like, I could see how it would build up. And it was just something I never really thought about, or maybe I didn't appreciate it as much as I should have. But, like, we're putting these human beings in these situations to save lives and run into burning buildings. And I mean, absolutely, they should have support systems and unlimited time off and whatever they need to be able to continue, being supported and doing what they do best.
Yeah.
Now, in moments of doubt, of adversity, of those challenges, is there somebody specific that, like, pushed you on? Like, when you were just at the bottom of the barrel, super empty tank, was it like, Lisa's hand that you were holding that kind of like, is that like Gideon's my rock, right?
Yeah.
So like in my moments of despair, actually even the other night I was quite a bit anxious and he was laying down and I actually just went and laid on his chest and I'll breathe with him just to bring myself back to earth, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's Lisa, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Get misty. But no, I mean, I couldn't have done it without her. I couldn't have gotten through it. I couldn't have even started. She was the reason I even started. Prior to my diagnosis, things had not been going well. It was coming.
Right.
It was coming, and everybody could see it.
I could assume that
everyone
projection.
could see it except for me, right? So I think it was probably around 3 or 4 months before I finally went off work that, you know, she just kind of said to me, "You're not yourself, and you've been snapping at the kids, or not snapping, but very short. You know, just like I don't have time because my brain is already off doing something else
at a capacity."
And I kind of went, "Yeah, okay, you know, I don't see it, but I'll take your word for it, and I'll try and figure something out." You know, and started talking to someone, but even when I was talking to them, it was like, I don't want to get labeled as crazy, so I'm just going to tell you the basics to say that I'm here, and because I don't want to come here and you say, "Oh, you've got PTSD and now you can't work," because again, my brain is going, that means then I can't support the family and do all have this life that I love, which I didn't. You know, I hated it at that time, but it was what I was used to, I guess.
Yeah, safety.
But so she started that process. And then I remember the day I went off work, calling her from where I was, and just a complete meltdown, complete basket case. And it was just like she just kind of cleared everything. She just took care of everything.
Wow.
She cleared the house. She cleared the kids. I just went in the house and into my bedroom, and I was there for about 3 weeks, where I just laid in a dark room and cried. And she would come in and check on me, and she just, the basics. It was just knowing that there was somebody there who wasn't judging. That was it. That was the thing, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't a judging. I could just break down and then slowly put myself back together, and having somebody there to help me through it.
It's nice to have those spaces where we can just be.
Yeah.
We can be quiet. We can be angry. We can, whatever it is. Yeah. A safe space to be.
I remember having, I was putting the kids to bed. Lisa we always split, we got 2 kids. She'll go in with Henry and I'll go in with Edie, and then we'll switch the next time. Whatever. We've done that since they were babies, and we still do that today.
Stop.
We do. We just switch everything. Anyway, so I was putting, it was my turn to put Edie to bed, our daughter. And so I was laying in bed with her. She was 7 maybe, you know, and she was struggling with something that night and throwing an absolute fit. And I lost my mind, and I just had nothing left, and I flipped out, and I stormed out of the room, slamming the door. And as soon as I slammed the door, I felt like the worst human being alive, the worst dad, the worst everything. And I was also mad at her, at myself, at everything. I went in the room, my room, closed the door, and then I heard Lisa go in, talk to our daughter, get her settled, and then she came in, and I was expecting, I'm raring to go, right? Let's fight this one out.
Fight.
Now she's gonna be mad because and then she came in, she just said, "That must not have felt very good, right?"
Aww.
And it was that compassion of that statement. It is unbelievable, right? Where it would have been so much easier to just go, why are you talking to her like that? Why are you being a jerk?
Yeah.
Because I was being a jerk. But the compassion of just knowing that this is not how I would normally like to.
That's not how you move.
Conduct myself.
Yeah.
And that compassion really, I still, hold that and remember that.
I feel for parents, because every parent has that. Every parent has that moment. My parents had that moment. Absolutely. And it's like, it does have to be hard in those moments. Right. And And for you to kind of go on this journey and even peel all of that back too, right?
I was still very fresh. I was still that was probably only a couple months after going off work. So it's still very much, I was barely getting by on my own. I had no capacity to help anyone else's problems at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
And to be able to give yourself compassion for those moments too, right? Where it's like, we are human. We circle back and we project.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I was like, that was one of the earlier lessons that I learned was like, oh, right. People just project, right? So someone's mistreating you. It's not you. It's seldom about you.
No, it's always about them.
Yeah. It's always about them. Yeah.
They're having a bad day. So they're taking it out on you.
They're triggered about something. Totally. And even like, if I get frustrated at my husband, sometimes I'm like, I apologize. That's on me. Yeah. He's such a sweetheart too. We should never get mad at him. No, it's you're right. With couples and like our partners too, kind of getting us through, and that beautiful compassion. Can you repeat that question that she asked you when she came in the room?
It was something along the lines of, that must not have felt very good, did it? And it wasn't in a condescending tone at all. It was a compassion and knowing that I was going through something, and that must have been hard, and I was already regretting what had happened, right?
Wow. It just, like, even hearing that, it's like de-escalating.
Yeah.
Right? Like you could really, like, there's like these key phrases that we can say in tough times, and questions like that. It's like almost like the curiosity over criticism, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So instead of coming into the room and criticizing you right away, it was the curiosity of, oh, that must not have felt good, eh, babe?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow, yeah. Lisa. God, she's so special.
She is.
How long have you two been married? Or together?
We've been married for 17 years, I think.
No.
She's not going to get me in trouble because she doesn't know either.
No, oh, perfect.
No, we don't. That's not.
It's ideal.
Every year, our anniversary is in December sometime, and we can never remember when it is. We got like a picture on our fridge that has the date on it that we look at every year, because it's like somewhere between the 19th and the 21st of December. It's somewhere in there.
You guys got married right before Christmas?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
So we were actually going to get married, have the big ceremony and everything.
Yeah.
And then we had the money raised, and then at the last minute, we didn't want to spend all the money that we had saved.
Valid.
So we went to Vegas.
Love that. Even better.
The two of us went to Vegas.
I feel like that's on brand for the two of you.
Yeah.
In your younger years.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a good time.
Speaking of younger years, Matt, if little you were sitting here right now, what would you tell that little fella?
I think it would have to be just be yourself. I think that's something that I have struggled with my whole life, and it's something I see most people struggle with. Be authentic and be yourself. Because when I was little, it was trying to be strong or be a tough boy or, whatever. And that's probably what got me, why I stayed in the paramedic field longer than I should have, because I was not being myself and I was not being authentic. And I'm struggling with this, but I don't want to tell anyone because I identify so strongly as a paramedic and a father and
I was going to say hero, but
no, that's not what I should say.
Paramedics are heroes.
Like provider for the family.
Yeah.
Is kind of what I'm
right,
getting at. Yeah. I identify as a hero. And
I guess that'd be a weird thing.
Yeah, that would be a weird
thing. You're totally a hero. Yeah. You got me. You brag. I want to celebrate your wins. You know what? I love that piece of advice, because I also agree. Like, a lot of us get trapped into people pleasing, right? Mm-hmm. So we end up like losing ourselves, and it becomes like a self-discovery thing once we hit our 20s. But it's like, if we could be comfortable with being ourselves while we're young, then it's easier when people do and say things to us that hurt, for us not to dip.
Yeah. Because
we know who we are, and that's our core, and it's easier to stay that course, right? Where if we're people pleasing and we hear things that hurt, or somebody does something that hurts us, it's easy to dip. Which, like, personally, that's been one of my hardest lessons to learn, especially, I would say, in the last 3-4 years, is just letting people do it and say whatever they're going to do and say to me, and me stay the course. Like, don't
and if you know who you are, then you, like we were talking about earlier, then you know that what they're saying doesn't necessarily reflect you. It reflects them.
Yes. It's a
Right.
constant projection.
Yeah.
People project. And you know what? We're at Euphoria Wellness Spa right now, and I will tell you right now, there is a hairstylist. His name is Sean. He is an absolute master of a hairstylist. Point aside, he was the one, I remember having a conversation with him because I worked here for almost 10 years. So it was in my like early 20s that I started here. I remember sitting at the front desk and him and I were just having like a candid conversation. And he was the one that was like, Tiffany, people project. And it always stuck with me. So Sean, if you're watching this, thank you for that life lesson because
Yeah.
I swear he changed my life when I heard that. And then it was like after that, I started to just kind of like keep that with top of mind, right? It's like one of those awareness things.
It's crazy
and you
how
feel
those
it.
little conversations at work, like you still remember it 10 years later, right?
Yep.
And it was just kind of a throwaway, probably Sunday morning conversation, right? And
Yeah.
you still remember that advice. That's great.
The power of people,
Yeah.
right? The power of human stories and human kindness. And speaking of kindness, Matt, what is the best thing about life?
The best thing is uncertainty.
Oh my God. Usually people are like, uncertainty.
I mean, it keeps you on your toes, right? It keeps things interesting, and you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. It keeps things so, I like change. Most people don't, I guess, but I like change. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I get stressed out just like anybody, and change isn't always easy, but it definitely keeps things interesting.
Good one.
Yeah.
And Matt, the floor is yours. For those watching, whether it's Edie, whether it's Henry, whether it's little you, do you have a message for the people, and what is that message?
My message would be to be yourself and to reach out when you need help. And don't be afraid of what other people are going to say or think, because everyone's so involved in their own world. They don't care.
They don't.
If they care because they want to help.
That's
but
right.
They don't. Nobody is going to go out of their way to judge because you need to reach out for help for something that you're struggling with, because chances are talking about it and reaching out and getting help for yourself, somebody else is going to do that because you've talked to them about it and you've said, I'm going out to do this, or go on the Tiffany Show and talk about it.
Oh my heart, my heart. You have so much to offer this world, Matt. You really do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all the things that you have done, especially in your 15 years of serving the community as a paramedic.
Mm-hmm.
That is a huge, heavy job. Thank you for all the things you've done post-paramedic, sharing this message about PTSD, mental health, recovery on the other side. Thank you for continuing to go, for being kind, for moving forward, for sharing your light. If you are watching this, go down to Couture Candy, downtown PTBO, and Lansdowne Place Mall. They're also online. What's the website?
Couture Candy, PTBO.ca.
Yeah, shameless plug. I don't even care. It's my favorite candy store. I will plug whatever business I want to. It's my show. I could do what I want.
You're looking to sell your home or cottage? You want to work with someone who knows the market inside and out. Hi, I'm Sarah Evans, born and raised in Peterborough, Ontario. I'm very proud to call this great community home. Contact me today and I can promise to exceed your expectations. 705-768-6278 or visit sarahevans.ca.
Not intended to solicit those currently under contract.
Matt Couture, Mr. Couture Candy. Cheers to you, sir.
Cheers. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me on The Tiffany Show. This has been another episode. Be kind and keep going.